I am 97 years old, and I need to tell you something that is going to make you uncomfortable. Good. Sit with it. Because comfortable is exactly how I felt for 40 years, and look where it got me. I am sitting in a leather chair that has molded itself to the shape of my body. The leather is cracked now, split along the armrests where my hands have rested 10,000 times. To my left, on a small wooden table that my wife bought at a garage sale in 1978, there is a telephone. Not one of your little pocket computers, a landline. Beige plastic, yellowed with age. The curled cord hangs off the side of the table like a dead vine. There is a thin layer of dust on the receiver because nobody has picked it up in weeks. Not me. Not anyone calling in. That telephone is the most important object in my house. It is also the cruelest thing I own. Crueler than the mirror that shows me what time has done to my face. Crueler than the empty bedroom down the hall where my wife used to sleep. Because that phone represents a promise that was never made, but that I believed with every stupid bone in my body. The promise that my children would always call. I can hear my refrigerator humming from the kitchen. I can hear the clock on the wall behind me ticking off seconds I will never get back. And between those two sounds, there is nothing. Just silence so thick it has weight. It presses against my chest like a hand. Your children will not call as much as you think. Not when they grow up. Not when they move out. Not when life gets busy and their own kids start screaming and their own bills start piling up. They will not call. And if you are not careful, if you do exactly what I did, one day you will be sitting in a chair like this one, staring at a phone like this one, and the silence will eat you alive. Listen to me before it is too late. When I was 43 years old, I was a king. At least that is what I thought. I had a house with 4 bedrooms. I had a wife named Margaret who could make a pot roast that would make you weep. I had 4 children, 2 boys, 2 girls, and I had a job at the plant that paid well enough to keep all of it spinning. That house was never quiet. Never. You would walk through the front door and the noise would hit you like a wall. The TV blaring cartoons. My oldest boy, Thomas, arguing with his sister about something stupid. The phone ringing, always ringing. Margaret's mother calling. The school calling. Neighbors calling to ask if the kids could come play. That phone rang so much I used to curse at it. I used to say, "Margaret, if that thing rings one more time, I'm ripping it out of the wall." She would just laugh and shake her head and answer it anyway. Sunday dinners. God, the Sunday dinners. The table was too small for 6 people, but we crammed around it anyway. Elbows bumping. Someone always knocking over a glass of milk. The smell of roast beef and gravy so thick in the air you could taste it before you sat down. Mashed potatoes in a big yellow bowl. Green beans that nobody wanted but everybody ate because Margaret gave you a look if you didn't. And I sat at the head of that table like I had built the whole world with my bare hands. I was the provider. I was the reason the lights stayed on and the food was hot and the roof did not leak. And I believed, with a certainty that only a fool can have, that this was enough. That being the man who paid for everything meant I was the man who mattered most. Margaret used to ask me to stay at the table longer. "Sit with them, Harold," she would say. "Just sit. Talk to them. Ask them about school." And I would say something like, "I've been working all day, Maggie. I'm tired." Or, "They're fine. They know I love them." Then I would go to the garage, or fall asleep in this very chair. And I would tell myself that there would always be another Sunday, another dinner, another chance. That was the lie. The big, comfortable, warm lie that I wrapped around myself like a blanket for decades. They are my kids. They will always come back. We have time. We always have time. I confused being in the same house with being in their lives. I was physically present at every single one of those dinners, and I was emotionally gone for most of them. I provided everything except the one thing that would have made them stay connected to me when they no longer needed the money or the roof or the hot meals. I never gave them me. Not really. Not the kind of me that asks questions and remembers the answers. Not the kind of me that sits on the edge of a bed and listens to a teenager cry about something that seems small but is not small to them. I gave them stability. I gave them routine. And I thought that was love. It was not. Let me tell you about my 89th birthday. I need you to see this clearly because this is the day I understood what I had done. Margaret had been gone 3 years by then. Cancer, quick and merciless. She went in 4 months, and the house got so quiet after she died that I started leaving the television on just to hear another human voice. But on my 89th birthday, I turned the television off. I wanted to do things properly. I set the dining table. The same table, though I had moved it against the wall years ago because it was too big for one person, and the emptiness of the other chairs made me sick. But that morning I pulled it back to the center of the kitchen. I set 5 places, 5 plates, 5 forks, 5 knives. I put out the good silverware, the set Margaret had gotten from her mother. I folded napkins. I even bought a cake from the bakery in town. A store-bought cake with white frosting and blue letters that said, "Happy Birthday." It sat in the center of the table, and the whole kitchen smelled sweet, like sugar and vanilla. And underneath that there was the smell of dust because I had not cooked a real meal in that kitchen in over a year. I sat down at the head of the table, my chair. The same chair I had sat in for 40 years of Sunday dinners. And I waited. The clock in the hallway ticked. I could hear it from the kitchen. Tick, tick, tick. Steady and patient and completely indifferent to what was happening in my chest. The morning light came through the window above the sink and fell across the table in a long yellow rectangle. I watched it move. It moved slowly across the plates, across the untouched napkins, across the cake. Morning became afternoon, and the light shifted from yellow to gold to a pale amber that made everything look old. Which I suppose it was. Everything in that house was old, including me. The landline did not ring, not at 10 in the morning, not at noon, not at 2 in the afternoon when I was still sitting there with my hands flat on the table, staring at that phone on the wall like I could make it ring with sheer willpower. At 3:15, my youngest daughter sent a text message. Not to the landline, of course, to the little cell phone the home nurse had made me buy. I fumbled it open with my shaking hands and read the words on that tiny, bright screen. "Happy B-Day, Dad." That was it. 4 words. No period at the end. No, I love you. No, I'll call later. Just 4 words, tapped out with a thumb while she was probably doing something else. Driving, cooking, living her life. The other 3 did not call, did not text, did not send a card, nothing. I sat there until the light left the kitchen entirely and the room got dim and gray. The cake sat untouched, the plates sat empty, the silverware gleamed dully in the fading light. And the silence was not empty. It was full, it was heavy. It pressed down on the table, on the chairs, on my shoulders. It filled my mouth so I could not speak. It filled my ears so that the ticking of the clock became enormous, each tick like a hammer coming down on something hollow. I got up. My knees ached, my back ached, everything ached. I walked to the phone on the wall, the old landline, and I picked up the receiver. I held it to my ear, and I heard the dial tone, that long, steady hum. The phone worked. The line was connected. It was ready to receive a call at any moment. They simply chose not to make one. I hung up the receiver and I stood there with my hand on the phone, and something broke inside me. Not dramatically, not like in the movies where a man falls to his knees. It was quieter than that. It was like a thread that had been holding something together just finally gave out. And the thing it had been holding, some last stubborn piece of hope, just dropped into the dark and disappeared. I did not eat the cake. I put it in the refrigerator where it sat for 2 weeks before I threw it away. That was 8 years ago. Let me tell you about now. The dining table is gone. I got rid of it. I have a small table now, just big enough for 1 plate and 1 glass. The kitchen does not smell like roast beef anymore. It smells like dust and old wood and whatever the home nurse microwaves for me on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But the landline is still here, right beside me on this little table next to my chair. I will not disconnect it. I will not let them take it out. The nurse thinks I am stubborn. Maybe I am. But that phone is the last thread, and even though I know the thread is connected to nothing on the other end, I cannot cut it. I am not strong enough for that. I am strong enough to sit here and stare at it, but I am not strong enough to let it go. Every afternoon around 4 o'clock, I sit in this chair. Same time Margaret used to start cooking dinner. Same time the kids used to come crashing through the front door after school. I sit here, and I look at the phone, and I wait. I do not even know what I am waiting for anymore. It has become a ritual. Like praying to a God you are not sure exists, but you do it anyway because stopping would mean admitting something you cannot afford to admit. Sometimes I pick up the receiver. I hold it to my ear and I listen to the dial tone. That hum, that steady mechanical hum. It is the loneliest sound in the world. It is a sound that says, I am ready, I am here, no one is coming. I breathe into the receiver and I listen to my own breath come back to me, and the house is so quiet I can hear the dust settling on the windowsill. The worst part. You want to know the worst part? It is not that they stopped calling. Children grow up, they get busy, they move away, life happens. I understand that. The worst part is that I stopped flinching when the phone did not ring. There was a time, maybe 5 years ago, when the silence at 4 o'clock would hit me like a slap. My chest would tighten, my eyes would sting, I would feel it. But now I sit down, and the phone is quiet, and I feel nothing. Just a dull, gray nothing that spreads through me like cold water. I have gotten used to the absence of my own children. And getting used to it is worse than the pain. Because pain means you still expect something. Nothing means you have given up. Now I'm going to talk to you. Yes, you. The one watching this on your little screen. Probably while you are lying in bed or sitting on a bus or eating lunch at your desk. I am talking directly to you, and I need you to hear me. Not just listen, hear me. If your parents are alive, call them. Not tomorrow, not this weekend, not when you get a chance. Now, today. Pick up the phone and call them, because I promise you, there is a chair somewhere with your mother or your father sitting in it, staring at a phone, waiting. And they will never tell you that. They will never say, I sat by the phone all day and you didn't call. Their pride won't let them. My pride never let me. But they are waiting, trust me. They are waiting. And if you are a parent, if you have young children right now, if your house is loud and chaotic and the phone rings too much, listen to me carefully. Stop working so much. Stop telling yourself you will do it later. Sit at the table. Ask the questions. Remember the answers. Be there, not just in the room, but in the conversation, in the moment. Because you are building something right now, whether you know it or not. You are either building a bridge your children will walk back across, or you are building nothing, and they will have nothing to come back to. Being a provider is not the same as being a parent. Paying the bills does not earn you a phone call when you are 89 and sitting alone with a store-bought cake. You do not get to skip the hard, boring, uncomfortable work of actual connection, and then act surprised when the phone goes silent. Your children do not owe you a relationship you never built. Silence does not arrive like a storm. I want you to understand that. It does not crash into your life one terrible afternoon. It seeps in, slowly, like cold air under a door. One missed dinner, one conversation you were too tired to have, one birthday you phoned in, one Sunday you let slip by, and then another, and another. Until one day you look up and the house is empty and the phone is quiet and you cannot remember the last time it rang. I am 97 years old. I have a telephone that no one calls. And I am telling you, with whatever time I have left, do not end up like me. Pick up the phone.